Good morning to all of you. I'm very sorry I can't be there with you due to some personal issues. First off, I would like to commend, congratulate, and thank our hosts, the RCE Salisbury, for doing this amazing job. Brittany, she's out of this world, putting so much effort to pull this off. And all of you for being there. So yes, please. Anyways, my presentation for you, I don't know, I think I should actually load it. Let me know when it's on the screen. Yeah. Okay, great. So, a lot of things to cover. My idea here is to give you a sort of a shorter version of the current situation with the Americas network from the perspective of the steering committee and the support committees. I divided this presentation into 4 installments. So the idea is to be able to cover different topics during the conference. Otherwise, it would be too long for half an hour. So the idea is to cover the main ideas now, hopefully briefly, so we can have a Q&A session perhaps before I wrap it up. And then we have a steering committee session later today and the communications committee presentation tomorrow morning. And then at the end of this conference tomorrow afternoon, the idea is to come together and decide next steps, how we will move forward. And then I will also introduce a few ideas and suggestions. So here we are. And here we go. First off, as I said, I would like to give my thanks and recognition to all the people that are being part of all these governance structure, from the steering committee to the support committees, the strategy, governance, and policy, the what I called core, which is cooperation, outreach, research and development, and the big team, the communication, tech and admin support committee. Huge thanks to all of you. Whoops. There. So to recap, and we will see how all this that I will be presenting connects and reflects on the presentations of Philip and Roger in terms of what we've been doing, but also what's been going on in relation to our global network and where we should be heading. So a bit of a recap. The vision, purpose, and values of the Americas network, according to what was established by the steering committee, achieving the SDGs of the Americas by 2030 and creating an ongoing Americas learning space for sustainable development. Our purpose as a network to facilitate collaboration and exchange among RCE members, to empower them locally and help them become a leading network in the region for transformative action through ESD to achieve the SDGs throughout the Americas, and a set of values that emerge from this, among others, respect, cooperation, reciprocity, equality, commitment, responsibility, innovation, and multiculturalism. Our guiding principles, RCE autonomy and accountability to regional stakeholders, the RCE authority derived from the UNU acknowledgement, collaboration and cooperation, and inclusion and participation. So our governance structure so far, this was presented last year and still remains relevant and operative. Our steering committee at the center. Then we have 3 support committees, the ones regarding strategy, governance and policy, communication, admin and IT or tech, and cooperation, outreach, liaison and R&D, as I mentioned on the previous slide. And then our task forces, the People Task Force, Education and Wellbeing, Cities and Prosperity, and Planet, with their own set of SDGs. We will cover them in the next slides. So, how we can bring sense to this structure and purpose and scope, how we more or less can identify what it is that we need to do as a governance structure. So briefly, we have this table. We, of course, have, as a governance, we need to understand what it is that we want and need to do inwards, but also outwards, because we want to basically develop an impact on the world. So the steering committee sets goals, approves documents, monitors overall progress and compliance, and coordinates reports and supports these annual events. And outward looking, it's the official representation and seeks and approves funding, topic that we need to address, and signs agreements on behalf of the Americas Network. The Strategy, Policy and Governance Support Committee proposes and drafts policies and proposes strategies and roadmaps. But then, as strategy goes, we need to be able to understand the context, where is it we're heading, the world is heading, and we need to adjust those roadmaps to stay on course. The Communication, Tech and Admin Support Committee gathers information in terms of what's going on and what is that we want to convey to our members and the public as a whole. We need to adjust and develop those contents and manage channels and members, but also needs to read the context as well and align those messages and manages also inbound as we start communicating with the outside world. The Cooperation and Outreach and R&D Support Committee maps stakeholders internally and externally, fosters relationships and synergies and cooperation between RCEs, these inwards, but also maps opportunities and identify potential relationships with external organizations. And the task forces, the idea is for them to collect and analyze initiatives from RCEs, identify best practices in the Americas, and develop content in that regard to feed the support committees and eventually the steering committee and the network as a whole. And then, but also monitors and looks for best practices elsewhere, perhaps in other regional or continental arrangements of RCEs like Africa or Europe, elsewhere, present technical results in that regard. And so we can actually bring those best practices so maybe we can implement them. So in that regard, people, planet, cities and prosperity, education and well-being focused on their SDGs, so we can make the most impact as possible. So how we connect all this? We have a steering committee at the top or at the center, but we can read this from the bottom up. So basically we have the territory, we have RCEs at the local level, connecting with their stakeholders, and those individual RCEs connect with the task forces in relation to the projects they develop aligned with certain SDGs. Those task forces pull together that information, they process it and connect with the support committees in terms of strategy, governance, and policy, communications, and cooperation. So we can actually bring all this together in a streamlined way to gather all the information and best practices and outcomes. Those, as I said before, but just as a reminder, the SDGs involved or aligned with these task forces, SDG 1, 5, and 10 for the People Task Force, 2, 3, and 4 for education and well-being, 7, 8, 9, 11, and 12 for cities and prosperity, and the planet 6, 13, 14, and 15. Remember, the SDG 16 and 17 will be handled in a way by everybody as a whole, but sort of located in the support committees and the steering committee. So, in terms of possible workflows, and this is, of course, a suggestion, the possibility of setting up a certain frequency of meetings. The steering committee, 3 months. The support committees, I believe we should meet as we've been doing so, once a month. The task forces every 3 months to be able to have the sufficient time to collect information from individual RCEs in terms of projects and good practices. And of course, every RCE being able to engage with the different task forces and the support committees as well in terms of, well, proposals, consultations, etc., to be able to have a really participatory dynamic within the Americas. And as we said before, the idea of the steering committee to be able to stay on top of the game, quarterly informing the overall progress, adjusting course accordingly, and coordinating our annual reports. This is as the result of being fed the information through the support committees and the task forces. So the task forces can actually direct certain information to the support committees according to their nature and purpose. So everything here can stay in the right track, and for us to be able to process all this important information to have a larger impact as a whole. And of course, the idea of having a network that's purpose-driven, but also data-driven, as I've been saying. There is a lot of information to be gathered and to be processed. And so we can extract the value of that information, of that data. But we already know, as Philip was saying, and Roger as well, we have ESD for 2030, we have the SDGs. So the idea is for us to be, as an Americas network, a solid pillar that contributes to accomplishing this by the end of the decade. And in that sense, to become a sustainable network. So we have the mandates of developing this through education. And of course, we know target 4.7 addresses this, education for sustainable development. And as we said before, we as a network, as the American network, as a structure for of alliances, we have SDG 17 at the top. Of course, we want to become a solid institution, a strong institution through SDG 16 and through education target, the 3 main topics of the global network being climate change, responsible production and consumption, and biodiversity. And the education for sustainable development and ESG for 2030, as Philip was mentioning, we have the 5 priority action areas: advancing policy, learning the environment, educators, the youth, and community engagement. And we can align, of course, our work towards these priority action areas. And through the lens of UNESCO, we can actually do basically a whole contribution to every pillar. Multi-stakeholders, inclusive network of partners. This describes us. We need to monitor and we need to evaluate our contribution. We need to communicate both inwards and outwards, and we need evidence-informed implementation. So this idea of not only purpose-driven network, but also data-driven. And as a recap, in order to integrate what I was just showing, we have this structure. The SDGs initiatives aligned with the priority action areas. That's the work that every RCE does in their territory. And through the governance structure, we can actually provide a coherent and valuable contribution to ESG for 2030. Now, in order to know if we are actually doing this, we need to know where we are going. And in that sense, we need to understand that there's a roadmap for the RCE community that's on the left. And here I also wanted to show or to share with you and to contrast a roadmap or a set of strategic objectives and targets for the Americas. So the global roadmap for the RCE community has 4 strategic priorities: serving as a local and regional hubs for ESG and showing leadership in innovation. The second one, strengthening the association of RCE activities with SDGs and ESG framework, expanding knowledge, sharing and outreach, and monitoring progress of RCE achievements. Now, and this, of course, we will validate in a way or improve at the steering committee and with you all. We will sort of share this information and open a consultation moment. But for the purpose of this meeting, I wanted to share a few ideas. The possibility of having 5 strategic goals with 3 strategic targets for each strategic goal. To strengthen the Americas network, to establish a clear and effective working dynamic and processes, to optimize governance and cooperation between RCEs, and to establish budget and develop finance mechanisms. This we need to address in order to basically move to the next stage of what the Americas network can become. To advance ESG and SDGs in the Americas, we need to improve education, research, and outreach efforts on SDGs. We need to align our contribution to the priority action areas, and I think we should focus also, or we could focus on fostering collaboration between students from different RCEs and other stakeholders. But also we can expand the network's reach. We can broaden each RCE's borders in order to encompass more territory and more actors at the local and regional levels or sub-regional levels. We can find new partners locally, but also we can target key locations in the Americas for current RCEs to work together for. So we know the new RCEs are a voluntary effort, but we know that at this stage, there are certain impacts happening on different parts of our continent. So in that sense, we can actually map this, keep the, open our, turn on our radars and find ways of engaging and supporting those areas beyond the borders of our own RCEs and work together with them and for them. What happens in the America is of our own interest and everybody's business. But also we need to walk the talk. So the idea of becoming a sustainable network, we need to, in that regard, establish clear commitments, goals, and roadmaps. We need to be able to define clear and solid KPIs and data collection, and also manage and reduce our resource use and impacts in a positive and negative way. But also, through this, we can position the network, our Americas network, as a relevant player in sustainability. In order to do that, we might want to develop a solid communications and digital marketing strategy. We can develop a networking and cooperation initiatives with external stakeholders, and we can also, and I think we must, develop a robust reporting mechanism. So in this regard, how to become a sustainable network and position ourselves as a relevant player in sustainability, walking the talk. We need to be able to define, and this is, I think, our next homework, what is it that we want to measure? Both from the qualitative and the quantitative sense. So from the qualitative sense, we know we want to have and be part of an excellence in education. We need to foster solid cooperation. We want to be inclusive, transparent, and innovative. But also, I think, and this is very important, we need to commit to be a carbon neutral network, to be zero waste network, and to be a biodiversity positive network, nature positive network. And from the quantitative perspective, defining a potential universe, a scope or a reach, we need to be able to measure the amount of cooperations agreement between RCEs and the network as a whole with external stakeholders, but also measure and identify the amount of students and communities where we can actually make impact, or we are actually making impact, and in what sense, and how many priority action areas we are aligned with and also contributing to. And again, of course, from the quantitative perspectives, we need to start measuring our resource consumption in terms of energy, water, waste, and emissions. I have a few ideas on how to do that. The idea is to be able to discuss them maybe tomorrow, later today with the steering committee, and in future conversations, perhaps before the end of the year. So thank you, and I'm open to any questions, ideas, suggestions from all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diego. You have 2 minutes. Do you want me to take a question? Okay, Diego, we will recircle back for questions. Oh, we do? All right. Oh, sorry. Diego, we have one from Pam. I'm going to repeat it to you.
Can you give a thumbs up? Can you hear me if I speak or no?
Pam, do you want to come up here and talk?
This way you don't have to repeat it.
Here comes Pam.
Hola, queridos
Queridísimo. I'm Pam Martin from RCE, Georgetown in South Carolina, along the coast, to those that I haven't met yet. Thanks, Brittany and Brian and everyone at Salisbury. It's been lovely, and we really miss our friends Diego, Teresa, Gary, everybody that only the ones I can only see your names on the screen, but we miss you all. So, Diego, I just want to say you have been a tireless worker on this initiative, and we really appreciate it. And I was wondering if maybe we could talk at some point a little bit. The communications has been a very successful part of this initiative. Oh, hi, Oriana. Now I can see you. So it's been really successful. And I'd like to point out the logo. Jill, did you do that? No, who did the logo? Brittany, you did the logo? It's fantastic.
We had a final touches a couple of days ago.
Well, it's really fantastic. So I just wonder if, I think, there have been really successful parts of the governance structure, such as communications, some parts of the steering committee. I think the youth network has been really strong, thanks to Oriana's leadership. And that's Megna's leadership, too, from RCE, Texas. And so thank you for that. What are you? RCE? North Texas. But anyway, I think the task forces have been unfortunate sort of victims maybe of the pandemic. And also, I think the task forces, and this, by the way, they in part were my idea, so I'm going to say that it was a failure on my part. I think that it's hard for us to align with the task forces because many of us are working within people and education and climate change, and they're so integrated, holistic, and overlapping that people haven't been very engaged. If you're on a task force and you're super engaged right now, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they have been. And so the other parts of the structure, though, I think there have been, Jill suggested that we talk about things that are successful, and since she does this for a living, I think that's a good suggestion. But I think there have been some really good, just for those who are new, we have some new people in the room. So Kate and Alejandra, yeah. So for the new people, we organized this during the global pandemic. So we didn't have a chance to see each other. We haven't seen each other in almost 3 years. And so kudos to everyone who, during such a tough time, actually developed logos and communications and all kinds of things. It's fantastic. But I think we have to recognize things that maybe just didn't go so well. And I don't know why they didn't go so well. But so one of the things that we have been talking about is maybe keeping the things that go well and throwing out the things that didn't go well and trying again. And one of the things I think all of us have enjoyed just over the brief time we've been together is we've been able to talk about some exciting new initiatives and what are you doing and how can I do that? And so wondering if maybe instead of task forces, we could have a community of practitioners that meets maybe for like a quarterly type thing, because we have a meeting in October or September, so then maybe 4 other times. And hopefully then maybe organically some, not task force sounds kind of scary, but like maybe a group of friends could organically kind of develop because we have common interests that are holistic and integrated and probably not in a task force. So that circle that you showed in your presentation, Diego, I think is really relevant, the very beginning one that has the steering committee and those. Roger was mentioning like the liaison, the outside, somebody to like, Roger had this fantastic idea. I'm just saying what everyone said since I have the microphone, because you didn't get to hear it, Diego, because we were drinking and eating last night, my friend. Not that we don't love you.
Yes.
But Roger had this great idea that like if we had a group of people that would be willing to reach out to the Rotary and say, hey, if you could sponsor some students to come to our conferences, Rotary International loves that kind of thing. Or, and Jenny and Kate and Jenny's students, had this fantastic idea of a potential of a certificate program. And, if we had a community of practitioners to be able to talk about these things, I think we would be more successful in developing programs that reflect the expertise and needs, as opposed to maybe artificially implanting task forces on people, which again, I will take full responsibility for. So anyway, those are just a couple of things, but I thought I would open the floor for people to say, well, we don't have time, but whenever we have time, to be able to discuss what went well. And Diego, maybe you have thoughts on what went well, because you're quite a leader in the communications area. And Maida too. I don't know if Maida's here, but anyway, that's it.
Thank you. Yes, on one, just a small note. Of course, this is aspirational. I'm not saying we should stick to this complex and demanding structure. But we know because we have it on our mission and or purpose and vision, we want to be relevant in terms of the transformation that's needed and required. We're living in a very special moment in history. We either do as much as we can, or the coming decades will be perhaps tragic. So in that sense, I think we need to step up and align ourselves with the challenges we're facing. But again, we are only human, our limited time, resources, etc. So perhaps what I just presented is something that we can keep in mind, and of course work with what we have and what we works, and in that regard, develop our structure and our dynamics from the most simple structure possible into a more complex one as we move forward.
Thanks, Diego. We have to move on to Roger and Oriana. Next up, we have Roger again. He is speaking on behalf of our RCE America's Youth Appointed Fellowship. Here he comes.
I guess those slides. Just while I'm up here, I think just to follow up on that very good conversation we've just had, the idea that we're looking at something symbiotic, an America's network that helps build the regional RCEs that in turn build the America's network. So the cooperation, in a way, should be saving us time, right? The cooperation at the Americas level should be helping us as regions do what we want to do within our regions, as well as our larger responsibilities that Diego has outlined so well. So that, for me, is the test for whether it's working well, is does it build us regionally, in turn to build up the Americas as a region as a whole. So, okay, so I want to just introduce this next session to talk about a new initiative of the United Nations University where there was an interest in creating regional youth coordinators to the RCE communities. And of course, we have the 4 continental regions, and one of them is the Americas. So I was approached by the Global RCE Service Center in the late summer, and tasked with providing some advice on how we could create these regional youth coordinators. But the Global RCE Service Center set out a program that they're interested in, where they would have regional advisors for the Americas and the other regions that would provide advice to the Global RCE Service Center around youth, coordinate youth-led initiatives in the Americas and globally, outreach and dissemination of RCE youth information in the Americas, so making use of the UNU RCE Bulletin and other social media challenge platforms in order to enable information about youth activities in the Americas. And then, of course, having youth representatives from each continental region participating in the Global Conference and the Ubuntu Committee of Peers, and providing some reporting structures. And so the idea was have a youth appointed for a 2-year term and a maximum of 2 terms. So those were the terms of reference for this position. I mentioned I was tasked as a regional advisor to try and provide an approach. But our RCE America's steering committee and network, we already had a youth kind of person leading that, Oriana Silva. So in a way, it made my task easier because we kind of already found somebody who was doing this work already at many levels. So what I did was I put together some key questions that I felt we should be asking a person who would be serving in this role. And I asked Oriana, first of all, are you interested, but also could you provide responses to those questions, provide a CV, which I in turn then shared with the steering committee to make a decision, is this somebody that we should be supporting as our nomination for the Americas? And basically, all the responses I received were very, very favorable. And so the proposal is that Oriana would be our regional youth coordinator nominee to the Global RCE Service Center, and they, of course, can then make the final decision. But if you're interested in what questions I asked Oriana, this was the list of questions I came up with to get some further information. And maybe what I would do is I'd invite Oriana, who's with us, to maybe speak to some of her qualifications and then lead us into this next session. Is that okay? So I'll need your help to let that happen.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So let's begin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 11th RCE Americas Youth Network meeting. Nowadays, our planet is facing different questions that require quick but meaningful actions. Every single decision that we take from now must be oriented to prove what we call home. Sustainable education may be one of the main reasons for us to gather here, but it's not the only one. Our main purpose is to strengthen and promote collaboration among other youth leaders to successfully achieve what we craft, an environmentally safe and inclusive world for all. We may be not too many today, but we are enough to make this happen. This will depend on us. Damas y caballeros, bienvenidos al 11º encuentro del RCE Americas Youth Network. Hoy en día, nuestro planeta se enfrenta a diferentes aversiones que requieren acciones rápidas pero significativas. Cada decisión que tomemos a partir de ahora debe estar orientada a mejorar lo que llamamos hogar. La educación sostenible podría ser una de las principales razones para reunirnos aquí, pero no es la única. Nuestro principal propósito es fortalecer los vínculos y promover la colaboración entre otros líderes juveniles para lograr con éxito lo que anhelamos. Un mundo ambientalmente seguro e inclusivo para todos. Puede que hoy no seamos demasiados, pero somos suficientes para lograr este cambio. Esto dependerá de nosotros. Okay, so now being said, I'm just going to answer some questions from the youth coordinator nomination that I got. So how was the process? I submitted a form with 6 questions. Can you all see the questions? Okay. So how would you describe your work today with your own RCE and the Americas Network? I started in 2020 when I joined the Sustainability Office at Dallas College. I got the opportunity to be in touch with my home chapter, RCE North Texas. I remember one of my first tasks was actually doing a conference with at least 1 or 2 representatives from each continent. We talk about public health and sustainable initiatives that different UTD, Dallas College at that time was Brookhaven, what we were doing, and share how can we connect with others. My relevant education experience I have with sustainable development, I served as a sustainable intern from 2020 to up to August 2021, so a year and 8 months around that. I got the pleasure to found and lead the Sustainable Age Student Journal. I did this with different students from Dallas College and advisors that they support me and support our team, pre-reviewing and writing articles about sustainable development. My outline about language proficiency. I'm from Venezuela. Spanish is my first language. I have 10 years experience learning French. I'm also a French major, and also I'm pursuing a degree in chemistry at the University of North Texas. Yeah, well, training with youth. I have been in SGA, Sustainable Government Association at Dallas College. I have been in the ACS, which is the American Chemical Society. Um, oh my gosh, the Green Team, and other groups, and the TSA, of course, that we will talk about that later. Um, yeah, well, volunteer experience. I have been working with the RCE since 2020. I was fascinated to join the RCE Americas to connect with people from different countries, different backgrounds, which is amazing. And well, my current age is 23. I think that's very much all. Do you need me to add anything else, Brittany? Okay, perfect. Now I will yield the floor to RC North Texas, who's going to present the Youth Network here.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so I'm here. I'm Bhargavi J. Raja. I'm one of the co-chairs of the RCE North Texas Youth Network, and yeah, no, and Oriana is part of that. So we're actually going to hear about her again. But yeah, so I'm actually here to talk about the upcoming RCE North Texas Summit and how we're specifically involving youth and how we're going to highlight youth in North Texas. Okay, so first of all, we're having a North Texas Summit coming up on November 9th and 10th. So this is going to be a summit with everyone in the RCE network. It's going to be 2 days long, and we're having a lot of panels based on like, the SDGs we're working on, and we really wanted to be intentional about involving youth in this panel as well. So we're gonna have a youth network panel, and when we were first thinking about this, we really thought about like, okay, what do youth want? Like, what's gonna be helpful? A lot of the times, like, we kind of first defaulted to like, oh, maybe like a career panel, something like that. And although that's an amazing idea, we kind of thought that youth would be able to get that from the other parts of the summit. And then we actually kind of reframed how we're doing this, and we decided we wanted to kind of highlight the youth, talk about what they're doing, and we wanted to kind of voice this just different idea and approach of why wait to start creating positive change in your community? Why not do it right now? And so we actually, I mean, we noticed that we've seen youth like this in the universities we work at, in the communities that we work with. Oriana is one of them. And we wanted to kind of show people like, hey, we don't have to wait around to make a difference. So the format of this panel, we're going to have 4 different students from 4 different North Texas universities. These are all students that are leaders in sustainability, whether it's in their university or their community. And they've all worked with different stakeholders and local government officials, university administration. And so it's always nice to see these examples. Okay, now we're gonna go into the questions. So we really thought hard about these questions. We really wanted to tailor it to this current generation that's in college, like Gen Z, and like also tailor it to kind of like what they're like, what the specific issues and specific topics that come up, especially with Gen Z. And so the first one we thought of is, what can intergenerational collaboration look like? Because I think there's a lot of like urgency and like excitement in the young generation, and I think sometimes that can be kind of hard to work with within the systems that we have established. So these students are all students that have worked through this system, and so they're going to talk about how they did that without kind of giving up on their values. we're also asking them how they feel like they're a unique driving force in sustainability. And one amazing thing about this younger generation is they're talking a lot more about burnout and like what it means to actually be this person trying to lead change and change the world. So we're going to ask questions about, you know, how do you prevent that? How do we kind of make that shift to make it feel like, okay, it's not just one person leading this whole thing. And then we're also going to talk about just what some important skills are that they've learned. And then we're going to ask them, what's one thing you wish that older generations would understand about youth and sustainability? Because I think there's definitely a lot of like misaligned values and like misunderstandings about that. And so they're going to talk about that. And then also, what is your advice to other young people who feel like there's not a role for them to play in the sustainability movement? I mean, it's, sustainability, like these goals are all like amazing, but seem like a lot of work. And there is a role for everyone to play. So they're going to talk about that. Okay, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our panelists. So Oriana is our first panelist, and she's amazing. We've all heard how amazing she is, and as we mentioned, she started a student journal called The Sustainable Age, and she's a representative from University of North Texas. Tony Pham, a representative from UT Arlington, he actually was part of founding an organization, a community organization called Walkable Arlington that advocates for walkability, works with the local government, local organizations, and they've played a big role in already kind of securing grant money to make Arlington more walkable. So it's an amazing organization. Paulina is a representative from the University of Texas at Dallas, and she actually spearheaded a campus-wide single-use plastic initiative to just get rid of single-use plastics on campus. So this was amazing. She worked with a lot of university administration, and then we're also having Paul Santana represent the Dallas College. He is a young student, a computer science major, and one thing that's really interesting about all these students is they all do come from like different majors, different academic backgrounds. I mean, we have architecture, we have computer science, and we have more like chemistry, more of a hard science, and French, of course. But yeah, so we're really excited to see how this turns out. But yeah, that's the end. Does anyone have any thoughts or questions? Thank you. I believe we're limiting it to people in the room for this time. Yeah, just in person.
So you think we could share the videos?
So it's a two-day event, and I share with
I love the focus on the questions about intergenerational. That's such a good fit with the RCE.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll have some thoughts on that you could share out with everybody.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what they have to say about that.
Thanks for the presentation, it's great. I have a question, and well, actually two. What, in your opinion, or perhaps it's a quick opinion, are the biggest challenge for the youth groups in the RCE, and how can people that are senior in RCE help you move forward in engaging and doing all the activities you would like to?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I think there is a lot of just difference in almost like terminology. Like there's a way that like that Gen Z speaks and they kind of like just understand each other. and then also like there's a more professional way to say things that's like kind of hard to like learn and kind of change your vocabulary into. I think that's definitely like a big part of it. Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Oh yeah.
I know we've been advertising for a while the Sustainable Age Journal as something that students from other RCEs or other regions can contribute to. Is that something, maybe this is a question for Oriana, I don't know, is that something, are you very eager for students from other RCEs to submit articles for that journal?
Yeah, so yeah, that is probably a better question for Oriana. And I believe she's going to talk about it a little more about. Oh no, she is about to talk a little more about the Sustainable Journal. Yeah, in a bit, but yes.
Would you say that we, in your opinion, how would you say the RCE network as a whole is doing in terms of youth involvement on the global scale? On a scale of 1 to 10, and what can we be doing to make it better?
You have to repeat it for the other people.
Okay, so overall, what can we, or how is the RCE network globally doing on youth initiatives and including youth? And what was the second part of it?
And what can we, the youth, as well as those who are not youth, be doing to make it better?
Okay, and what can youth and people who are not youth do to make it better? I personally think it's about kind of evening the playing field a little bit more. I mean, it's really about kind of going to this, seeing each other as like equals when we're kind of talking about this conversation. I think there is a lot of like, oh, they're young, they don't know what they're talking about. But I think there could be work done with that.
Is what is it in it for the youth? And I think that's always a selling point for us. Like if you're getting youth to be part of your network, which they are doing in addition to their studies, what is it that they get out of it other than the fact that they are part of this amazing community? So we've been working on sort of establishing a fellowship, maybe a scholarship, but the Sustainable Age that's there is a platform for you to kind of engage with RCs at other level, and I think something like that where they get to interact with other youth from other, exchange program that Diego always talks about. And some of those things actually give them exposure to the world outside the boundaries of their campus, and that is a challenge, but that's also an aspiration.
I mean, I recognize that.
Yeah.
I personally been published in the Sustainable Age, but
Yeah.
I think it's just a question of how do you market it out to youth who might not know about it, this opportunity that lies on the campus.
Yeah.
But where do you go?
Yeah, and also every youth has a different area of expertise. Like we have 4 students here with totally 4 different areas of expertise. Like how do you bring them together, on a shared platform? That's also a challenge.
Next, we're going to have RC Youth Georgetown. They are not with us right now. Pam, I have their slide. I can share information, or you're welcome to come up here.
Here we are.
Here is Pamela Martin, their director.
Hello again. Hannah Garthwaite and Lily Grote are our youth ambassadors for the RCE at Coastal Carolina University for RCE Georgetown in South Carolina. Unfortunately, both of them are in class right now, so they could not do the presentation, but they put together a slide. A couple of notes is our RCE is expanding beyond Georgetown. We had great success and some interest in other parts of South Carolina, so We call ourselves RISE, that logo there in the middle, which stands for Resilience, Innovation, and Sustainability Through Education. That's our local kind of way of saying what our RCE is, just because it's a fantastic title, but it's really long to get out of your mouth. So RISE is shorter. And so I want to thank Lily for helping design with our university the logo. But one of the things I'd like to highlight for youth in RCE Georgetown is our Youth Corps program, which we have worked on with UNU before. But we have fantastic partners in the Bunnell Foundation in South Carolina in Georgetown County. They've given us, between public-private partnerships and the foundation, almost $1 million over 6 years to pay for 35 students a year, plus 2 youth ambassadors to be in paid internships in the spring and the summer. To Megna's point, RCE North Texas, I always like to say where people are from, you know, when I highlight, you know, people's names, since we don't all know our geographic locales. To Megna's point, students really want to get involved, but at Coastal Carolina University and many universities across the United States, doing free internships is just not a possibility for students. I refuse to do them because our students, over 95% of our students are working 1 if not 2 jobs. And so when they do a free internship, it simply causes them to go into debt or sacrifice other things. We're very fortunate that we had this financial backing to be able to do it. So how the Youth Corps works is we partner with public and private entities in Georgetown County, which if you know where Charleston, South Carolina is, Georgetown County is the county just north of that, along the coast of South Carolina. It's the 3rd largest water basin along the East Coast, and it's where Hurricane Ian just came ashore a few days ago. So the Youth Corps, what we do is we seek partnerships with county, city government, with private engineering firms, cybersecurity firms, accounting firms, marketing firms, ecological tourism firms, and those firms pay a portion of the internship. They pay in the spring $1,000 and in the summer $1,000. In the spring, students work 15 to 20 hours a week. In the summer, they work 37.5 hours a week. The Bunnell Foundation comes in and matches that $1,000 in the spring to include fringe, so that students are paid $2,500 in the spring for 15 to 20 hours. It's $12.50 an hour. And in the summer, matches it at about $3,700 to include fringe, so that students are paid the full $4,000, $12.50 an hour. While those students are in those internships, they are also taking a class with me on Mondays from 4 to 6, where we learn about education for sustainable development, the goals, tools, and metrics for measuring those, and then they create a report that measures the sustainable development goals within the projects they're working on. We've been doing this now for almost 6 years, and what's really funny is and not that youth are funny, although you are funnier than most old people like me, but the students are the best interlocutors of the goals. So you are absolutely right. The students teach their employers, because what happens is, as soon as word gets out that the students are doing a presentation to the entire county with county council and city council and sort of leaders there, economic development, business leaders, all of a sudden, they recognize that they want their student to have the best presentation, right, in front of public. And so they start using the lingo of the goals. So the next year, when they ask me, the employers give me a short description. They say, and we'll be dealing with goal 3, goal 4, and goal 6. And they specify it so that then they start feeding their students information and crafting. What happens is the students are sort of insidiously teaching their employers about sustainable development without shoving it in their face or talking about goals, metrics, and frameworks that are boring and take their time. I think students are the best communicators of the goals to our community. It's created a value added. Every spring and every end of the summer, we have a big celebration with a fancy cocktail party, which I forgot that, well, in the pandemic we haven't been able to do, but I also forgot that we don't have an opportunity to celebrate like adults on an equal footing with students. And it's also a time when they get to learn how to network professionally with leaders and how to talk about things that are important to them. So it's just a fantastic journey. There's some of the leaders from the past, and that's that marsh, the marshes behind them that all flooded just a few days ago. I want to say that on the top there, we have Cassie, and what that picture reminds me of, we partner with Habitat for Humanity. Housing along the coast of South Carolina is very expensive. They give us housing for the entire summer for $200 a month or free for sweat equity in their volunteer house for our students. And below, on my left, or right, depending I suppose, but I guess on everyone's right-hand side, you have Jaquan Williams, who was on our track team at Coastal. He went to nationals. He lived in that housing. Part of the internship is that you immerse yourself for the summer in Georgetown County. So we go kayaking and hiking, we do botanical tours. But Jaquan and I asked them to do service learning projects. He was training for track around 5:30 in the morning, and one of the coaches saw him on the track. He volunteered the entire summer from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. to train about 25 students, elementary school students, on the track every evening. And if you know anything about South Carolina, it's hotter than Hades at that time. So anyway, that's the type, you have something that you think is going to be a simple internship program, and it winds up being an educational experience for our leadership. It winds up being an immersive experience with service learning. Jaquan, ironically, doesn't know I'm here talking about him, texted me last night to say he just got a job with an engineering firm because of his experience. And he noted SDG 6 he's working on in his text to me. Clean water. So I'm very proud of these young adults that I call my kids. And I'll just highlight the last part of this that's fantastic is I didn't realize when I started it that Goal 10, equity and inclusion, would be such an important part of this. But many students that are low income, high minority, don't have the opportunity to participate in study abroad or something global. And I say this because they noted this to me on their evaluations. And they also don't have the opportunity to participate in an internship. So that means that somewhere between 40 and 60% of our students are of diverse backgrounds that are non-Caucasian, which I'm quite proud of in a state that is majority Caucasian. And I'm also quite proud of the fact that 60 to 80% of them are hired by their employers, creating a really virtuous cycle for economic development as well for the county. So that's the youth initiative, and it functions mostly because of the students. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Pam. Next, we're going to have back to Oriana. She's going to be presenting on a student-led journal called The Sustainable Age. I've published in it with one of our graduate students, Jake Goodman, so I highly recommend it.
I'm going to talk about the Sustainable Age, how to become a sustainable agers. Okay, a little bit about us. So when I started this sustainability internship at Dallas College, COVID happened at the same time in March. And then we were like, how can we engage students during pandemic when we all are connected in the computer, when we are all overwhelmed with homework and activities? So we thought about, okay, well, let's do a journal. So in April 2020, to commemorate the 50 years of the Earth Day, so we were in the campaign of 50 years of 50 days, we were like, okay, let's do something, let's innovate. So students from North Lake campus and Brookhaven campus, using their knowledge in sustainability, we found the Sustainable Age Student Journal. So this journal is led by students, for students. We are focusing on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These provide an environment for students from different universities, colleges, backgrounds to develop academic research concerning different areas like social justice, human health, well-being, philosophy, science, technology, engineering, math, climate action, and business. So our writers, they learn an introductory level scholarly and peer-reviewed writing methods that can expand knowledge on sustainability issues. So we have peer reviewing and we also have advisors that are specialized in sustainability and also English academic writing. We are all volunteers and we serve in the journal. So topics and activities. So topics, well, as I mentioned, we talk about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. We try to talk that at least one the articles that should mention or should be related with at least 2 SDGs. And how can we spread the word? How can we promote the SDGs? So this year we have some activities going on. And one of them was our second anniversary of the journal. And so we have the Earth Day 2022 Instagram takeover, where, oh my gosh, many students and advisors from different universities, especially from Salisbury, we cover or we talk about all the initiative activities that were hosted on campus and how they were related with sustainability and how we participate as a youth component. So these were stories that we post on Instagram, talking, promoting, interviewing people. It was pretty cool. We did like around, oh my gosh, like 30-ish videos around that. Too many stories to post. But it was cool. For AirTags, we participate. Thank you, Dallas College, for being one of the main sponsors for us and giving us this. Well, you can see the picture. I was there in the table. We were handing white flower seeds and some SDGs bookmarkers and other treats, and also promoting sustainability there and try to get more authors for the journal. And the other activity that we also had was the Oak Cliff Earth Day first, where we also do the same. We hand out bluebonnet seeds and other treats too. I would like to I think, how much do I have the time? Because this is a video where all our board advisors and others, they talk. It is like a 3 minutes video. I think I may share with you guys the link so you can watch it on your own. I always want to include my team because this is, we have this journal because of them, because their support and their valuable time. So I'm always grateful for having them. And but besides that, I want to, hold on. I'm going to highlight that we also open another section of our student or advisor team. So we have the Tsa Alumni. This year, there were many. So since we require just college students, either undergrad or grad students, when they graduate and they leave academia, we created Tsa Alumni, and I want to highlight Rensika, and she was a student at Georgia Tech. She graduated last spring, and so I asked her, "Well, give me a quote. Describe your experience as sustainable agent?" So now that I'm gonna read that. Now that I'm working as an environmental engineer, I'm realizing that writing for and working with a sustainable age student journal provide me with a crucial context for sustainable solutions. Engineering is one side, but TSA taught me that there is often more than the story that meets the eye. People with all sorts of backgrounds interact with water resources. There are all kinds of government, nonprofit, and private players that influence the outcome of a project. Being cognizant of those details is something for which I have the sustainable age to thank. And I also form a friendship with peers. It is a very gratifying feeling to work on something so special with people from all over the world. If you're hesitating to join the journal, this is a good picture to see what will you have if you come to us. Okay. Okay, the student journal. So this is our website. You can take a screenshot, sustainableaids.com. We have articles. We have around 30 articles published. We have different categories: society, environment, economies, sustainable holidays. Some of our articles are just in one category, or they're overlap different categories. We have our About Us section where you can read all the descriptions that I mentioned before. Also, you can watch a video. Then you have Join Us section, and each time we have sustainable events. Right now, we don't have anyone hosted by the Sustainable Age, but we post their sustainable events. And also, if someone else requests us that you're going to do any sustainable events, we also promote that in that section. And you can see the logo.
Thanks, Oriana. We have to hurry up and wrap up soon.
Okay, yeah. So this is the information. You can take a picture. You can contact us through the social media. And, well, thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you, Oriana.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I encourage other, youth or UNRC youth members here to publish in Sustainable Age if you haven't done so already. I highly recommend writing for Sustainable Age.
Yeah, you could check out our articles too. Jake even did a video with this article.
All right. How's everyone doing today? So this is our youth network presentation for RCE Salisbury, the host university. So a little bit about RCE Salisbury and our youth network location here. So as you can see, we're here on the eastern shore of Maryland, right right around like there. I'm sorry, I want to point to it, but so we're right over here. Comico County, and then everywhere that our RC covers pretty much all throughout this region. We, of course, Shenandoah Valley RC shares a bit of the area for some subject matters, but basically the Mid-Atlantic. This is the host institution that kind of hosts us in addition to the Conflict Analysis and Dispute Resolution Department at Salisbury. Mainly, it is the Bosterman Center for Conflict Resolution, a local nonprofit that is now somewhat affiliated with the university here. That is that hosts the institute. And these are pictures from a trip to India led by our visiting scholar, Dr. Arun Gandhi. He is the grandson of Mahatma Gandhi, believe it or not. And basically for most years recently prior to the pandemic, he has led students and other people who were just interested on a trip of Gandhi's legacy all throughout north and western India. And we're actually going again this January. Late December, early January. Here's a list of our undergrad fellows. So we have, I'm sorry, it can be hard for me to see sometimes. Ashlyn, there we go. We have Ashlyn Burrows, River Meyer, Evan Polkinghorn, Daritza Roman, and Timothy Westcott. These are all very accomplished students, and they are all are they all in the audience here? Okay, right. And then here are our graduate fellows, Jake Goodman, Chinzia Lombardo, and Allison Wright, or Allie Wright. I'm obviously one of them, so. And then we have postgraduate youth fellows who are affiliated with the university and the RC in one way or another.
We got Amir Ahmed in Pakistan, and Kasturi Gandhi in India. And then we have Nathaniel Sampson. He is not only a former Bosserman UNESCO Fellow, he is a Boren Scholar, Presidential Citizen Scholar, and a UN Association Fellow. UN Millennium Fellow. And then here are all of our current undergrad UN Millennium Fellows. Recently, I was told the UN Millennium Fellowship opened up to grad students as well, but that was after this deadline. But these are all the current Millennium Fellows here. We got Mohammed Akil, Ashlyn Burrows, Jacob Cushmore Matapai, Ryan Devine, Stephen Folk, Anderson Herman, Victoria Kutnick, Taj Leonard, Jonathan London, and Abby Murphy. What? Oh. And then this is, oh wait, did I skip something? This is our really, UN Youth Fellow. This is Nathan Polkinghorn, who you heard earlier at the beginning. And it's his birthday tomorrow. Happy birthday, Nathan.
Thanks, Jake. Thank you. Thanks, Jake. That was really good. Yeah, at our RCE, we deal with a variety of different UN entities. One of the recent ones is the UN Millennium Fellowship, where our students compete against, this year it was, I believe, 32,000 people all over the world. They competed for it, and we had, I believe it was 12 that were selected for the fellowship. So it's really good. Right now, it's my favorite time of the day. It's lunchtime. We have lunch for everyone outside, but we also have with us a special guest. Timothy, would you like to bring her in? Thank you. We have with us my boss, Provost Karen Olmsted, who has graciously provided us lunch. And she's going to come say hi, because I wanted to introduce her to all my friends. So.
Thank you. I'm going to be quick because I'm standing between you and lunch, I think. I saw it out in the hallway, and I haven't had lunch either, so I'll be quick. I assume you introduced me. My name's Karen Olmsted, and I have the privilege of serving as provost here at Salisbury University, and I'm an ecologist by training, so I have an interest, I'm sure, in what many of you are engaged in. And it's a real pleasure for me to welcome you to our campus, all of you exceptionally dedicated leaders from so many different areas. It's really inspiring to have you on campus. I've learned a lot as our campus has prepared to host this conference this year and in last year as well, and I'm looking forward to learning even more. As an institution of higher education, our goal is, I think, for anyone who works at a university and really in many other places, to ensure a sustainable and sustained future for continuing generations. And here we're examining sustainability through the educational lens, and also to make sure that our students have the content knowledge, but also the skills to really affect the change that we need to see. And I just maybe want to take a moment here. I'm sure you've thought a lot about it this week, but just looking to what's happening in Florida as, just a tremendous and very disturbing picture of a potential future. Salisbury University offers many environmental programs, academic programs. We have bachelor's degrees in environmental studies, earth science, geography, integrated science, data science. And we have master's degrees in GIS management, geographic information systems management, and applied biology. And then the thing I'm most proud of is we're launching a general education reform. And if you've worked at a university or have ever worked at a university, you know it's unbelievably hard to change your general education curriculum. And our new curriculum is going to include both a focus on sustainability and civic engagement. So I think that's a real point of pride for our campus. If you flew into Salisbury or if you drove here, if you are checking out our region, you probably have a sense of how unique and how uniquely sensitive our region is. The Eastern Shore is bounded by the Chesapeake Bay to the west, which is the nation's largest estuary and the third largest estuary in the world, and then of course the Atlantic to our east. And so we are at a very, we are at sea level basically here and surrounded by beautiful, but as I said, highly sensitive natural habitats and historic communities. And our campus is committed to the study and preservation of not just those habitats, but also the natural or the cultural heritage of our region. And I just want to give a little shout out. We have, of course, the Bosserman Center that does amazing work, and we have several other centers that do amazing work on our campus. The NAB Center for Cultural History is just over in our Guerrero Academic Commons. And then our Eastern Shore Regional GIS Cooperative does a tremendous amount of work related to environmental sustainability. They've been active for 18 years, and they do things like climate change, sea level rise, mitigation planning for state highways. They map inventories of the forest resources across the state. And then they look at things like flooding, which if you are driving around today or maybe go over to Atlantic City, you're going to have a special opportunity to check that out. Even apart from the hurricane, we have an issue with, especially in the fall, seasonal flooding. It's dry sky flooding as well, not just today. The university also holds the Carnegie Foundation's special recognition of being a community engaged campus, which is a ton of work, but a real point of pride for us. And I think a significant factor in us winning that award was the extent to which we engage not only students, but faculty, staff in our community activities, and it's very reciprocal. We support them. They support us. And I think a great outcome of that, an example of that, and Brittany Faust, you've been very involved in that, is the number of UN Millennium Fellows that we've had win the past few years. So we're tremendously proud of that. We are also tremendously proud of the steps the university is taking towards sustainability. We have several LEED buildings and all that, but there's always so much more work to be done, and I know that our folks here today and this week will be learning from all of you on ways that we can improve upon our efforts. And I'm, again, so pleased that you're here on campus today, and I appreciate all the hard work that you're doing back at your home campus or home agency. Thanks for inviting me today, and I think lunch is ready. Yeah. Thank you.